Good morning, students. In part 4 of chapter 1, History, you will learn about political, social, and economic features of Europe in mid 18th century. In mid 18th century, there were no nation states in Europe. I show you map of Europe. You can see here. This is map of Europe continent. In it you can see that boundaries are marked for different countries like it is France, Germany, Poland, Czech Republic, Austria, Hungary, Ukraine, Romania, Italy, and here some countries are very small. I have written numbers. You can check here. Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia, Slovakia, Switzerland. So all these boundaries were not created during the mid-18th century. Countries like Germany, Italy and Switzerland were divided into kingdom, duchies and cantons whose rulers had their autonomous territories. What's the meaning of canton? Small division of a country. Means Germany, Italy and Switzerland. Germany, Italy and Switzerland. These countries were divided into kingdoms, duchies and cantons, and all these had their autonomous territories. The rulers who were ruling in these regions, they had their autonomous territories. Autonomous means under self-government. Eastern and Central Europe were under autocratic monarchies within the territories of which lived diverse people. In Eastern and Central Europe, there were autocratic monarchies. Autocratic means like a dictator, means the ruler who take all the decision and doesn't involve the other members of the group in decision making. They were under autocratic monarchies within the territories of which lived diverse people, and the people living in these areas did not see themselves as sharing a collective identity or common culture, because at that time there were no particular rulers. The ruler who made control over the other area, that person could become the ruler of that area, but if any other ruler defeated to him, so his area was included in other rulers' territories. So the rulers of these areas kept changing, and the people living in these areas had no collective identity. The Habsburg Empire that ruled over Austria-Hungary, for example, was a patchwork of many different regions and people. Habsburg Empire. At present, you can see all these countries. But in the mid-18th century, this part was included in Habsburg Empire. Not all the areas of Germany or Ukraine or Poland, but Habsburg Empire, who ruled over Austria-Hungary, was very large empire. At present time, you can see these two countries, Austria and Hungary. But in mid-18th century, this whole part was termed as Austria-Hungary. It was a patchwork of many smaller territories. Many region and people. It included the Alpine region. Yes, which areas were included in the Habsburg Empire? Alpine regions. In Alpine regions, Tyrol, Austria, Sudetenland, as well as Bohemia, where the aristocracy was predominantly German-speaking. It also included the Italian-speaking province of Lombardy and Venetia. As I told you that some parts of Germany and present time Italy were also included in Austria-Hungary, means Habsburg Empire, Lombardy and Venetia, and some part of Germany. They were also part of Habsburg Empire. In Hungary, Half of the population spoke Magyar, while the other half spoke a variety of dialect. Means the people who were living in one territory, they didn't speak same language. They used to speak different dialects. Beside these three dominant groups, there also lived within the boundaries number of peasants. Those peasants were divided into different groups like Bohemians and Slovaks to the north, Slovenes in Carniola, Croats to the south, and Rumans to the east in Transylvania. Due to all these differences, the political unity was not found in this region. In the mid-18th century, Europe was divided into many smaller duchies, cantons, and these areas were ruled by autonomous territories. People used to speak different types of languages, and the Habsburg Empire, who ruled over Austria-Hungary, was a patchwork of many countries, at present time countries. In Hungary, half of the population spoke Magyar, while half of the people spoke different types of languages. That's about political condition. Now, social condition of Europe in 18th century. Socially and politically, a landed aristocracy was the dominant class on the continent. Who was the main ruling class? Landed aristocracy, the people who belonged to the royal families and who were very rich. The members of this class were united by a common way of life that cut across regional division. They owned estates in the countryside and also town houses. Means they had very large estates, large lands in countryside, in villages, and also town houses. They spoke French for purpose of diplomacy and in high society. To show that they belonged to the high society, they used to speak French. Their families were connected by the ties of marriage. And in that, a small group was of aristocracy, while the majority of the population was made up of the peasantry. To the west, the bulk of the land was farmed by tenants and small owners. Tenants mean who paid rent for tilling land, and small owners, while in Eastern and Central Europe, the pattern of land holding was characterized by vast estates which were cultivated by serfs. What do you mean by serf? Peasant bound as laborer. Means the peasants who were forced to work particularly on their farms. They were known as serfs. So that's about social condition of Europe. Landed aristocracy was the dominant class. They owned estate in countryside and also town houses and spoke French for the purpose of diplomacy. Their families were connected by the ties of marriage. This aristocracy made a smaller group, and majority of the population was of the peasants. To the west, in west side, in this side, to the west, the bulk of land was farmed by tenants and small owners, while in the east, the land was under the control of the very rich people, and they had serfs to cultivate their land. After it, economic condition. In mid-18th century, in Western and Central Europe, due to growth of industrial production, there was growth of towns and emergence of commercial classes. Means new towns were set up because of the development of industries, and new commercial classes like businessmen, industrialists, professionals were developed. Industrialization began in England in the second half of the 18th century. Means from 1750 up to 1800, there was industrialization began in England, but in France and parts of German states, it occurred only during the 19th century. But in Germany and parts of France, it started during 19th century, means after 1800. New social groups came into being like industrialists, businessmen, and professionals. It was among educated liberal middle class that the idea of national unity, following the abolition of aristocratic privileges, gained popularity. Due to development of industries, there was growth of towns and emergence of commercial classes. In England and other central parts of Europe, industrialization started during 18th century. Means first of all, it was in England that the process of industrialization was started. First of all, industries at a large scale were set up in England, but in France and Germany, they were formed during 19th century. New social groups came into being like industrialists, businessmen, and professionals, and due to development of industrialization, educated liberal middle classes started to think about the ideas of national unity, because they thought that only by national unity they could improve their condition. Earlier, all the powers were in the hands of rulers. They could do whatever they liked. There were no rights given to the peasants, workers, common people. So when these people were educated, they started to think that there is a need to get rid from the autocratic monarchies, and this could be done only by national unity. What did liberal nationalism stand for? The term liberalism derives from the Latin root liber, meaning free. Meaning of liberalism was different in different concepts. For the new middle classes, liberalism stood for the freedom for the individual and equality of all before the law. For the middle class, what was the meaning of liberalism? Freedom for the individual and equality of all before the law. You know that during the French Revolution in 1789, when it was started, only the members of the first and second estate were given the privileges. But within the revolution of 1789, it was decided that the privileges given to the first and second estates would be taken away from them, and all people will be treated equal. In 1791, constitution was framed, and in that constitution, the right to vote was given only to propertied men. Even in that, women were not given the right to vote. It was only during the time of Jacobin Club that all adult men enjoyed suffrage. But even there, women were denied the right to vote. However, the Napoleonic Code went back to limited suffrage. Under Jacobins, all adult males were given the right to vote. But under Napoleon, again, the right to vote was limited to propertied men, and reduced women to the status of minors subject to the authority of fathers and husbands. Means women were not given the right to vote. The meaning of liberalism for the middle class was freedom for the individual and equality of all before the law. And what was the meaning of liberalism in economic sphere? Liberalism stood for the freedom of markets and the abolition of state-imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and capital. The traders wanted freedom of market. They had many types of problems for trade. There were many state-imposed restrictions. Whenever they had to sell their goods from one state to another state, they had to pay many taxes. During the 19th century, this was a strong demand of the middle class. You know that Napoleon came to power in 1804. Napoleon's administrative measures had created out of countless small principalities a confederation of 39 states. Each of these possessed its own currency, weights, and measures. A merchant traveling in 1833 from Hamburg to Nuremberg to sell his goods would have had to pass through 11 custom barriers and pay a custom duty of about 5% at each one of them. Means the traders had to pay custom duties, they had to pay money, and a person who had to travel from Hamburg to Nuremberg, he had to pass through 11 custom barriers, and at each custom barrier he had to pay duty of about 5%. As each region had its own system of weights and measures, this involved time-consuming calculation, because in all the states weights and measures were different, so it was very difficult for them to measure. It was time-consuming. For example, cloth. The measure of cloth, for example, was the alley. What was alley? The measure of cloth, which in each region stood for a different length. An alley of textile material bought in Frankfurt would get you 54.7 centimeter of cloth, in Mies 55.1 centimeter, in Nuremberg 65.6 centimeter, and in Freiburg 53.5 centimeter. So what was the meaning of liberalism in economic sphere? They wanted freedom of markets and the abolition of state imposed restrictions so that they could trade easily. All these conditions were obstacles to economic exchange and growth of commercial classes. That's why in 1834 a custom union whose name was Zollverein was formed at the initiative in efforts of Prussia and joined by most of the German states. At that time, Prussia was one of the most powerful states of the German province. The union abolished tariff barriers and reduced the number of currencies from over 30 to 2. Due to the efforts of Zollverein, tariff barriers were abolished. Means the traders who had to pay custom duties at each barrier, they were abolished, and the number of currencies were reduced from 30 to 2. Earlier there were different currencies in different states, so it was difficult for them to purchase or sell products because of different currencies. But then the number of currencies was reduced from 30 to 2. The creation of a network of railway further stimulated mobility, harnessing economic interest to national unification. A wave of economic nationalism strengthened the wider nationalist sentiments growing at the time. Meaning of liberalism was different in different concepts. For the middle classes, it means freedom for the individual and equality of all. In the sphere of market, it means freedom of markets and abolition of state-imposed restrictions. And politically, its meaning was concept of government by consent, means such government should be formed who is accepted by all the people. Since the French Revolution, liberalism has stood for the end of autocracy and clerical privileges, a constitution, representative government. So what was the meaning of liberalism in politics? Concept of government by consent.